I'm not going to beat around the bush here, right? The fact that we're still talking about the unfortunate passing of a man who doesn't deserve, he just deserves to be left to rest now. But we're still dragging this out and blaming a, well, on screen porcelain doll, but it's actually just a cloth doll for the passing of a man is absolutely insane. And hopefully we can finally put this to bed, as TMZ and multiple other outlets have reported the autopsy from Dan Rivera's passing. So the true death of Dan Rivera has been revealed and the cause of death, right? So hopefully after this we can put it to bed. Now, I thought maybe I'll just not touch this topic because, it's been talked about enough, right? But there's still people that I see on my Twitter feed, who I see on my TikTok feed, who I see on my Instagram feed, who are like, oh, this guy died because the Annabelle doll and all the rest of it. And then you've got the purchase of the Warrens Occult Museum from Matt Rife and Elton Castay. And then it's like, oh, what a mess, man. Like, they're like, oh, the doll's already taken out one paranormal investigator this year. Well, has it? Has it? Because that's just like completely like shitting all over the unfortunate and tragic passing of a human being. Like, this person has completely been overshadowed by the doll, by a piece of cloth, right? By a piece of fabric. And it's really like infuriating, if I'm perfectly honest. It is just infuriating because people just run with the narrative because nothing gets clicks and views, like Annabelle doll kills owner and handler and stuff like this. But that's not may not necessarily be the case, as TMZ have reported. TMZ, man, like, just take it with a pinch of salt. But paranormal investigator Dan Rivera, cause of death revealed. Did Annabelle do it? See, even they're running with this narrative, and it's frustrating, man. Exclusive. So, here we are. Dan Rivera, paranormal investigator on a creepy Annabelle doll tour, who died completely out of the blue in the haunted Civil War battlefield town of Gettysburg, has a history of heart issues. The coroner says his death was cardiac related. Just waiting for the people to be like, oh no, because Annabelle made his heart stop. Shut the fuck up. Cybow. Rivera's autopsy results has been released by the County of Adams coroner Francis Dutrow, and it has been told that Dan died from natural causes. We already kind of knew this. As we reported, Dan was in Pennsylvania for his Devils on the Run tour, hauling the infamous Annabelle doll across the country when he died July 13th in his hotel room. The coroner tells us that the Annabelle doll was not in the room when Dan died. Not. Say it a bit louder for the people at the back. Not at the back, alright? Anyway, we're told that Dan had a known history of cardiac issues, which were consistent with the autopsy findings. Dan was a fixture in the paranormal world and has led investigator for the New England Society for Psychic Research. And he built a serious ghost hunting cred and a robust social media following off the eerie superstitions tied to the Annabelle doll's history. The story of the supposedly possessed doll has inspired the 2000, as we know, Rivera was only 54. Now, even down in the comments, right, of this article, people are like talking about how, the doll didn't have to be present. The doll, the doll didn't have to be present for people to die of cardiac arrest because, that's just what the doll does. Shut up, man. Look at this. But they were on tour together. Don't got to be in the room to have to even evil kill you. Some people, right, could literally get slapped with a wet fish and will still claim that they were not slapped with a wet fish. It hurts my brain, man. It hurts my brain. Some people obviously are on the right side of this. This is evidence of how stupid people are. This absurd story. Now, I don't think the story's absurd necessarily, but I think the context and the narrative that people have run with is absurd. You know, but every news outlet is now talking about this and how, you know, oh, it's all linked to the Annabelle doll. The first thing that you see and greeted with on thumbnails, Annabelle doll, man, like, come on.
Death for Annabelle doll handler Dan Rivera has been revealed. Nearly 2 months after he was found dead while touring with the infamous horror relic, a Pennsylvania coroner told People in a statement, Dan's death followed a cardiac-related event. And no, Annabelle was not present in the room at the time of his passing, with officials saying Dan died of natural causes, consistent with his known history of cardiac issues. The paranormal investigator died July 13th while overseeing a tour of the supposedly haunted Raggedy Ann doll, made famous after the Conjuring franchise depicted Ed and Lorraine Warren's first-hand accounts. Series star Patrick Wilson sharing his reaction to Dan's death with E! News ahead of their final film.
If all these things are so evil, why do you keep them around? Why not just destroy them?
It's complicated. Sometimes that makes things worse.
I think anytime something happens in real life, I never sensationalize it. So, you know, I there's a lot of unexplained things, and anytime you're dealing with real people, real families, real friends, that's much bigger than any of this other stuff.
Patrick Wilson there, bang on the money, right? That this is like, I think people actually tend to forget at times that this is a real person who's got a real family, who's got real friends, who are probably grieving the loss of, you know, a loved one and a friend and family member, right? And they can't, like, move on because there's just all this misinformation and disinformation spread across the internet about how, you know, his passing is completely related to the doll and all the rest of it, when they know for a fact that this is not the case. And it is kind of tragic, and it is kind of sad, and it's disappointing that the world has just, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, sometimes people's silliness can really dumbfound me. I thought I'd seen it all. I really thought I'd seen it all. When we were going through that Conjuring House saga last year with Jacqueline Nunes, I thought then, I've seen it all. But then things like this happen, and I'm like quickly brought back down to reality, and I'm like, people are still kind of silly. People are still silly. But here we are. What do you guys think? Obviously, you know, be respectful down in the comments. You may not believe in Dan Rivera's work. You may not believe in the Nespa. You may not believe in any of it, right? And that's fine. But remember, you know, someone actually died, an actual human being who has friends, family, loved ones. Let's be at least respectful of that. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, there we go. I'll speak to you later. Peace.